The German capital's subway is neither the oldest nor the largest in the world. However, there are reasons to consider it truly unique. The fact is that for 30 years, the Berlin subway not only connected different districts of the city, but also separated the two states West Berlin and the GDR, the German Democratic Republic. Already on the first day of the construction of the Berlin Wall, August 13, 1961, all trains running from the eastern sector to the western sector were stopped, and those running from the western sector to the eastern sector, for some reason, passed several stations without stopping. Every day, thousands of people traveled from one part of the city to another, some to store, some to work, and some just to visit relatives or friends. Those who happened to be on the subway at the time were puzzled. How? Why? There was no panic. Many reassured themselves that it was a temporary measure. Only after some time did the people of the GDR realize that they were trapped in the socialist camp. In a matter of days, East Berlin was turned into a regime facility. At many stations, the exits to the surface were closed. Entrance doors were blocked with bars. Underground passages were bricked up and covered with a layer of asphalt. Much of the subway infrastructure remained in West Berlin. The GDR inherited only half of the stations of the second line, which stretched up to and including the modern Marienstrasse. The entire fifth line, which ended at Alexanderplatz. At the same time, there were 12 more stations of the 6th and 8th lines under the eastern sector of the city, connecting the northwestern districts of West Berlin with its southern part. What to do with them? The question was not an easy one, but the communists solved it very quickly. Economic efficiency was not their top priority. Political expediency came first. In this case, the goal was the same: isolation or closing the borders with the capitalist world as securely as possible. The future leader of the Eastern Communists, and then the party's security secretary, Erich Honecker, threw and implemented all the measures. First of all, the entrance to the subway stations was closed. Trains from West Berlin were allowed through, but without stopping. Only one station, Friedrichstrasse, remained open. Here, a checkpoint was organized for those entering or leaving East Berlin. It is said that when trains from the western sector entered the transit zone, their passengers felt as if they had stepped into a horror movie. Everything was in its place, but completely deserted, not a single person, only the figures of East German or Soviet border guards in the dim light of the lanterns. They were ready at any moment to stop the train or fire a warning shot. It was not without reason that such stations were called ghost stations or horror stations. As we see, the authorities of the GDR and the USSR did a lot to fill the lives of people living under socialism with new meaning. However, not everyone appreciated these efforts. After the construction of the Berlin Wall, legal opportunities for emigration to the West were reduced to a minimum. There were even fewer illegal ones. They were 100 times more dangerous. But if a person chose this path, he could avoid many unpleasant formalities and, above all, checks from the Stasi or the party leadership. Therefore, people fled at the slightest opportunity. They hid in car trunks, climbed over barbed wire, jumped out of buildings. The subway was also suitable for this purpose. One of the most famous fugitives was Dieter Wendt. He worked in the metro as a signalman and knew the topography of the metro well. The only thing left to do was to find a good use for the knowledge, that is, to escape. To do this, the fugitives had to go through the Klosterstrasse public station tunnel and the abandoned Waisen tunnel to a concrete wall that protected the underground from flooding in the event of a flood of the Spree River. This wall also served as the key to the tunnel through which West Berlin's Line 8 trains ran. Dieter hid his loved ones in a small room above this structure. Having completed his work duties, he returned to complete his plan. Despite a strict ban on stopping trains on this line, the driver of a train heading to West Berlin responded to the fugitives' light signal and hid them on the floor of his cab. The train entered the station lobby, slowing down. The border guards on duty here scanned each carriage with their eyes, but no one noticed anything. And within a few minutes, the whole company, finding itself in West Berlin, breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to such stories, trips along these metro lines have become a mandatory part of the excursion program for many tourists visiting West Berlin. There was always the opportunity, if not to witness another escape, then at least to experience an adrenaline rush through imagination. For the residents of West Berlin themselves, the divided metro, of course, created discomfort. There was only one plus: there was no need to pay for transit through East Berlin. The price of tickets in the Berlin metro has always been determined by the stations belonging to a particular transport zone, but travel through blocked areas was simply not taken into account. There were simply no stations for residents of West Berlin in the Soviet occupation zone. They were ghosts. The division of the metro cost the municipal authorities of the western sector a lot of money. Every year, they transferred 2,800,000 German marks to their colleagues from East Berlin for the repair and maintenance of horror stations. Western specialists were not allowed into such important facilities under any pretext. The West Berlin budget incurred other equally significant expenses. For example, the Bülowstrasse station had to be closed due to a decrease in passenger traffic. For the infrastructure to work at least somehow, they found another use for it. A Turkish market was opened on the platform. Until 1989, there was brisk trade here. As soon as the communist regime began to come apart at the seams, the station again began to perform its usual functions. And already in 1993, the entire Berlin metro system began operating at full capacity. More than 30 years of downtime, fear and secrecy were forgotten like a bad dream.